I feel like my definition of the word retire is so far-fetched from what society expects of me that I became hesitant talking about it. I feel like people are expecting something grand, but the truth is, my life is far from grand. This is a question that I've been getting a lot ever since I moved to Switzerland. Despite receiving it all over my social media, in the comments of my YouTube videos, in my Instagram DMs, I've been avoiding answering this question for the longest time. Maybe it was due to fear, perhaps afraid of the backlash that I might receive, or maybe it was due to my imposter syndrome, downplaying my hard work and achievements to serendipitous luck. Nonetheless, today is the day I face it head on. I know what you're thinking right now. When people see the word retire, they tend to associate it with a very specific image in their mind. According to societal norms, I have to be in my 60s. I don't have to work anymore, and this is the time where I get to really enjoy my life. So when you hear someone saying that they are retiring in their 20s and 30s, I feel like people are expecting something grand, maybe it's owning a multi-billion business, maybe it's owning multiple properties. But the truth is, my life is far from grand. I feel like my definition of the word retire is so far-fetched from what society expects of me that I became hesitant talking about it, because even my own family struggles to understand it. So this is also me prefacing that I wouldn't blame you if you don't agree with what I'm about to say. And disclaimer, you're gonna have to sit with me on this one because it's gonna be a long ride. Just like the butterfly effect, every tiny little decision that I've made through my life has led me up to this very point. So I think, yes, it is necessary for me to bring you all the way back to the 1990s, Penang, Malaysia. My parents were born and bred in Malaysia. For those who are unfamiliar with the country, it's relatively harder being Chinese in Malaysia. My parents felt that they had to work 10 times harder just to get the same opportunities that were handed to their peers. It was this constant unfairness that eventually drove them out of Malaysia in search of a better life in Singapore. After they got married, my parents eloped to Singapore with nothing to their name but $100 ringgit. I use the word eloped because my grandfather did not approve of this. My parents were taking up any kind of odd jobs that they could get their hands on. They couldn't even afford a proper meal and they were constantly hungry. Back then, they didn't really earn much. They were able to make ends meet because of their extreme frugality with their paychecks. They saved up literally every single penny that they could, and eventually they were able to afford their first home. So this is where I come into the story. My sister and I, we were born 2 years apart. My parents were more career-driven than ever, motivated to provide a better life for their kids. When we were born, to make things easier, we were raised by relatives. It was when I reached kindergarten age that I came back to Singapore to join my parents and my sister. Fast forward 8 years later. Our family had the opportunity to convert to Singaporean citizenship after being PR for 10 years. It was a defining moment for our family because being a recognized citizen of a country meant that we could finally call Singapore our home. So, how is it like growing up in Singapore? Just like any other Asian kid growing up, my parents were really strict on us. Our grades meant everything, and we were expected to study really hard to get into good schools, or else we would be looked down upon. Life in Singapore can be highly competitive and stressful, with a strong emphasis on academic achievement. The belief that academic excellence translates to better job opportunities further intensifies the stress on students to perform well in their studies. In addition to academic pursuits, we were highly encouraged to participate in co-curricular activities. I was a dancer for 10 years. Can you believe it? Then came adulthood. What's next? As a fresh graduate from Polytechnic, the next main focus was to find a job. Influenced by my parents, I was super kiasu and I had already landed myself a job even before graduation day. At the same time, I decided to pursue my bachelor's and I got to finish my studies in UK, Birmingham. It was the furthest I have ever left home and I got to see a glimpse of what life is like on the other side of the world. And the thing is, after you have gotten a taste of life abroad, I think it is difficult to return to your normal life at home. After getting my bachelor's, I found a new company that offered me a higher pay. In Singapore's fast-paced work culture, life gets increasingly mundane and suffocating. There's no definite work-life balance. It was just all about work. And you hear it all the time. Your friends complaining about work, yet wears overworking as a badge of honor. Taking leave just to work at home or bringing work home after work hours. With this kind of work culture, sure enough, I just felt like a zombie dredging through the week just waiting for the weekend. Working all year, just waiting for my 14 days of vacation leave and repeating the year again and again. So I couldn't help but wonder, there must be something more to life than just work, right? Honestly, with all due respect, I don't know how my parents do it. After working for a year, I was already so sick of it. I just couldn't picture myself having to work for the next 40 years of my life. That's when I decided that one day I'm gonna move abroad. I didn't know where yet, but I wanted so badly to get out of this rat race. At this point, I was willing to do literally anything and everything that I could in the next 5 years if it meant that I could reap the benefits of not having to work after. And something my parents have said to me have stuck with me for the longest time. In Chinese, we have a saying, 先苦后甜,先甜后苦, which means either you work hard now and enjoy later, or you enjoy now and you suffer later. It all boils down to whether you are willing to sacrifice, to delay gratification in the short term so that we could enjoy even greater rewards in the long term. But then comes the next question. How? As a typical 9-to-5 worker, just like everybody else, what can I do to lead a different life? The internet tells me that I have to set up my own business, invest in multiple properties, do stocks, trading, but all of this needs money. Where do I even find my capital to even kickstart it? And honestly, I think that it takes a really special, talented person to be able to flourish in all of this. And I'm just not it. I know that I'm not cut out to be a girl boss. I'm just not the business or numbers kind of person. So, I stuck to what I know best. Following in the footsteps of my parents, working hard and extreme frugality. Apart from my 9-to-5, instead of scrolling away on social media or watching dramas in my free time, I started to explore new income sources on the side. I was always intrigued by the beauty industry, so I tried many beauty products, and for those that I personally love, I took in distributorships and started selling them on the side. I even went for makeup and hair courses so I could start doing bridal makeup as well. Just to give you an idea, this was how my week went. Monday to Friday, I work my 9-to-5, 5 to 9, selling beauty products online. On weekends, when it is the peak for weddings. And FYI, Chinese wedding starts in the wee hours in the morning. So I wake up at 2 to 3 a.m. in the morning to go to the client's place, and usually by 7 a.m. I'll be done And then afterwards, I would go home and head straight back to work. It actually sounds pretty crazy, huh? Now that I'm actually telling you this. But I did this for years and I just stuck to what I knew best. Sheer tenacity. Now that I've managed to increase my income, it would mean absolutely nothing if I couldn't keep it. I would say that I led a pretty minimalistic life. I live with my parents. I bring lunch from home to work. I don't really fancy luxury goods. I prefer shopping on Taobao. I sold all of my secondhand stuff on a resale platform and I saved up every penny I could. Now that I have a little savings, I thought that I could look into investments, but I didn't know how. I tried trading, but I failed miserably at it and I actually lost 5k. So see, stocks are not for everybody. I decided to go down the traditional route. I put my savings into a fixed deposit and endowment plan, so I will not spend them away even if I wanted to. If I were planning to stay in Singapore, I would have done what my parents eventually did. Investing in properties and reselling them every 5 years. But from the get-go, I did not plan to stay in Singapore. So, let me introduce to you the concept of FIRE. Originating from the 1992 book Your Money or Your Life by Vicky Robin and Joe Dominguez, FIRE is a movement of people devoted to a program of extreme savings and investment that aims to allow them to retire far earlier than traditional retirement plans would permit. While early retirement is the goal for some FIRE savers, for many, it's about having the choice to decide when they work. For some, it's as simple as being given the freedom to afford to work part-time. And for me, my main motivator was just to get out of the 9-to-5 rat race in exchange for a simpler and peaceful life. Remember, the first part of FIRE stands for financial independence. Something that, if achieved, could allow you to, instead of retire, work at something you love rather than something you have to do. So, the term retire, by definition, is to leave one's job and cease to work, right? It's true. For the past 1.5 years, I have not been working and I have been able to survive thus far with my extreme savings. And right now, I can take my time to explore the world and try everything. See what piques my interest with no urgency or pressure of having to go back to a 9-to-5 job. After all, I'm still really young. Why should I tie myself down to a job for the next 40 years just because I studied this major? I never understood how it is possible to decide what you want to do with the rest of your life when you are just still so young. Many of my friends didn't end up working in a major that they studied anyway. I mean, the possibilities are just endless. You don't have to have your life all figured out. It's impossible to know with absolute certainty what is going to happen in the future. But what I know for certain is I don't want to wait till I'm in my 60s to start living life. I want to start living my life now. I'm only going to be in my 20s once and I want to do it while I still have the energy and time to do so. For others, perhaps retire is not exactly the right word to use. They might prefer to call it a sabbatical. So if it sits better with you, you can say that I'm on a sabbatical. Indefinitely. To me, I consider myself retired and living my happy little retirement life in Switzerland. So, this is where I leave you. Take care and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!